So how do we relate this to our congregations? This is really the key to kind of the first part of this presentation. First of all, and you're welcome to argue with me about this, just wait until like Monday night when I'm safely home in Philadelphia. Here's what I think the hygiene factors are in our congregation: relationships, covenants, music, worship, pastoral care, programming, and that includes adult, children programming, other speakers that we bring in, and of course, coffee. Coffee always gets applause. I don't know what it is. These are not factors that motivate us to get involved in congregational life. These are factors that, if not satisfied, will cause us to be dissatisfied. But if we satisfy them, all we're doing is eliminating the dissatisfaction with them. So I think that many of us think, if we had better music, if we had more spiritual or more secular, take your choice, worship services, if we made better coffee, if we did all of that, then people would get involved in congregational life. But if Hertzberg is right, and I think he is, that's not the case. Now, I'm not saying these aren't important, because if you don't eliminate dissatisfaction, but you just focus on motivating people, it's not going to work. You have to first eliminate dissatisfaction with these factors. And that includes relationships, even though they're really important. If I have satisfying relationships in the congregation, I've eliminated the dissatisfaction with not having satisfying relationships. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get involved in congregational life. So what are the motivators? What are the things that we need to instill in our congregation in order to get people more involved in congregational life? Well, it's the things we've been talking about. A sense of achievement, affiliation, which means being connected with others in meaningful ways. Power, which is not always a bad word, or authority. Our life-saving faith, instead of the work itself, which Hertzberg talked about, it's our life-saving faith. We get involved in congregational life, we roll up our sleeves, we make a commitment, we take a risk, because we know that it's going to further Unitarian Universalism. A sense of responsibility, meaning, affirmation or recognition for the work that we do, and an opportunity to grow personally. All the things that I covered in the slides earlier, I think they have perfect applicability to our congregations. So, I'm going to pause for a moment. I am going to really ask you to turn to someone next to you or a couple of people. I'm not going to cut you off in 5 seconds. But I just want to give you an opportunity to talk to each other about what I presented so far. Does it surprise you? Does it puzzle you? Do you not agree? Are you thinking this is the greatest thing I've ever heard so far since I've been here? But also to talk about, in your congregation, what are the hygiene factors, that's these, that you need to work on in order to eliminate dissatisfaction? Sorry, don't let anyone know what congregation you're with, so you can speak freely. And then also, if you would take a moment just to share what are you doing to create motivation? What are you doing already that's helping people to become nourished and motivated through the application of these factors? You guys can't see them. Oh, but I read them, and you wrote them down. If you didn't, you could just kind of sit there and envy everyone else. And I'm sorry for that. So I'm only going to give you no more than 5 minutes, okay? So if you would turn to someone and just talk about how the relevance this has for you. Hey, thanks for doing that. So some of you, I think, had really good conversations, and the rest of you probably had time to make dinner plans. I really would. We have 45 minutes left, so we have some time. I'm going to ask a member of each of the groups to step up to the microphone. Actually, I am really curious to get a sense from 2 or 3 or maybe 4 at the most. Is there anybody that heard something really brilliant or interesting or valuable that they would like to share? with the group. Ryan?
Hi, Ryan Novoselsky, Fourth Universalist Society in Manhattan. The fact that there are two lists was sort of a revelation, because you think you improve the things that are bad, and it will just happen sort of naturally because you're stopping, from driving people away. But the comment that I would have on the second list is that these are a little more abstract. I don't know how you provide somebody with achievement other than give them something that's achievable, but for example.
No, that's a good point. A lot of these are internal, but if we can create, and I do have some ideas I'll share with you, if we can make that part of the culture. I mean, we all know, we all benefit from a sense of achievement, but it's personal, it's internal. So we do need to, you said it, we need to provide the opportunity for people to achieve and then acknowledge that achievement so that people get that internal gratification. Most of these are really related, they're intermingled. Now, Ryan, you can go back to the cheap seats. Did you guys pay full price for that?
Yeah.
Talk about your obstructive views. Hi.
Hi, I'm Gloria DeRuin from Solana Beach, California. And I'm not particularly motivated myself right now, but I think...
I'm glad I'm helping you.
I think what would be most interesting here is to hear about successful events or groups or whatever that people have achieved and share them with all of us. The personal touch rather than the theoretical, psychological stuff.
Thank you, Gloria. No one ever accused me of being psychological. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Liz Roper, and I'm currently at Knoxville, Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. Mm-hmm. Something that we talked about, which kind of links back to the idea of things being achievable, is something that we ran into with our with one of our secret committees, not naming any names, was that we had this feeling of when they came to the committee meeting, they didn't know how much homework they were going to be going home with. And so I think one of the things with achievement is not only so that you give them something achievable, but also that you actually very explicitly tell people what they are expected so that they know and they can make that commitment rather than this fear of not knowing exactly what they're being asked to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great idea. Thank you. And, I've never been to Tennessee, but I love your accent. Our last contributor.
Okay.
Thank you.
What I found kind of interesting, Daniel Danielson, UUCLR at Little Rock. What I found kind of interesting was the hygiene looks an awful lot like what goes on the search committee list for a new minister. And we keep hoping that new ministers will bring in that new motivation, but that doesn't seem to be exactly what's going to do it. So we're putting too much hope into the minister.
That's a great point. Thank you. Thank you for those who shared. So let me start to get more concrete. Creating highly motivated participants in congregational life. There are three sections that I want to talk to you about. The first is ownership. In order to be motivated, a member must feel free to take risks, to explore their own interests, to find their role in the congregation. But in order to feel autonomous, one must feel a sense of ownership. And I'll come back to that. The second one is making a contribution or having a transcendent purpose. Kenneth Hildebrand said, strong lives are motivated by dynamic purposes. And the third is recognition or sharing of gifts. The opportunity to share my gifts with the congregation, to be acknowledged for sharing those gifts, and to acknowledge the gifts of others. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes on each of these.